Hello guys. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is about the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Trump had been impeached for the second time by the House of Representatives on January 13, 2021. On February 13, 2021, the conclusion of Donald Trump's impeachment trial finally ends and Trump was acquitted by the Senate, with 57 senators voting in favor of conviction and 43 voting against. The President Joe Biden released a statement on the Senate vote and the trial of Donald Trump. This sad chapter in our history has reminded us that democracy is fragile, that it must always be defended, and that each of us has a duty and responsibility as Americans, and especially as leaders, to defend the truth and to defeat the lies. Now let's see the Republican leader Mitch McConnell's impeachment speech video.
January 6th was a disgrace. American citizens attacked their own government. They used terrorism to try to stop a specific piece of domestic business they did not like. Fellow Americans beat and bloodied our own police. They stormed the Senate floor. They tried to hunt down the Speaker of the House. They built a gallows and chanted about murdering the Vice President. They did this because they'd been fed wild falsehoods by the most powerful man on earth. Because he was angry he'd lost an election. Former President Trump's actions preceded the riot for a disgraceful duty. The House accused the former president of, quote, incitement. That is a specific term from the criminal law. Let me just put that aside for a moment and reiterate something I said weeks ago. There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. No question about it. The people who stormed this building believed they were acting on the wishes and instructions of their president. And having that belief was a foreseeable consequence of the growing crescendo of false statements, conspiracy theories, and reckless hyperbole, which the defeated president kept shouting into the largest megaphone on planet Earth. The issue is not only on January 6th. It is not just his endorsement of remarks in which an associate urged, quote, trial by combat. It was also the entire manufactured atmosphere of looming catastrophe, the increasingly wild myths about a reverse landslide election that was somehow being stolen, some secret coup by our now president. Now, I defended the president's right to bring any complaints to our legal system. The legal system spoke. The Electoral College spoke. As I stood up and said clearly at that time, the election was settled. It was over. But that just really opened a new chapter of even wilder, and more unfounded claims. The leader of the free world cannot spend weeks thundering that shadowy forces are stealing our country and then feign surprise when people believe him and do reckless things. Now, sadly, many politicians sometimes make overheated comments or use metaphors. We saw that unhinged listeners might take literally, but that was different. That's different from what we saw. This was an intensifying crescendo of conspiracy theories orchestrated by an outgoing president who seemed determined to either overturn the voters' decision or else torch our institutions on the way out. The unconscionable behavior did not end when the violence actually began. Whatever our ex-president claims he thought might happen that day, whatever reaction he says he meant to produce, by that afternoon, we know he was watching the same live television as the rest of us. A mob was assaulting the Capitol in his name. These criminals were carrying his banners, hanging his flags, and screaming their loyalty to him. It was obvious that only President Trump could end this. He was the only one who could. Former aides publicly begged him to do so. Loyal allies frantically called the administration. The president did not act swiftly. He did not do his job. He didn't take steps so federal law could be faithfully executed and order restored. No. Instead, according to public reports, he watched television happily, as the chaos unfolded. He kept pressing his scheme to overturn the election. Now, even after it was clear to any reasonable observer that Vice President Pence was in serious danger, even as the mob, carrying Trump banners, was beating cops and breaching perimeters, the president sent a further tweet attacking his own vice president. Now, predictably and foreseeably under the circumstances, members of the mob seem to interpret this as a further inspiration to lawlessness and violence, not surprisingly. Later, even when the president did half-heartedly begin calling for peace, he didn't call right away for the riot to end. He did not tell the mob to depart until even later. And even then, with police officers bleeding and broken glass covering Capitol floors, he kept repeating election lies and praising the criminals. In recent weeks, our ex-president's associates have tried to use the 74 million Americans who voted to re-elect him as a kind of human shield against criticism. Using the 74 million who voted for him as a kind of a human shield against criticism. Anyone who decries his awful behavior is accused of insulting millions of voters.
Clearly, the Republican leader Mitch McConnell found Donald Trump guilty, as he mentioned on the video. But the confusing part that he voted that Donald Trump not guilty.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
The House Speaker Nancy Pelosi criticizes Mitch McConnell, who voted to acquit former U.S. President.
And to come to this press availability, however tempting it would be to sing the praises of our House managers on behalf not only of the House of Representatives, on behalf of the American people, And I have to say personally, on behalf of my grandchildren, who drew great hope and inspiration from each and every one of you. We could not be prouder of your patriotic presentations, the clarity in which you presented, and again, the inspiration that you have been to so many people. So I thank you for that. When I see all of them, it reminds me that when we recruit candidates to run for office, or we see them self-recruiting, we always say, and they'll say, well, I could be the president of my university, or I could be the head of my hospital department, or this or that. And so I have to think about whether I run for Congress. We always say, we don't want anybody without options. That's why we're looking to you to run, because you have options. That shouldn't be a reason for you not to run. But what we saw in that Senate today was a cowardly group of Republicans who apparently have no options because they were afraid to defend their job, respect the institution in which they serve. Imagine that it would be vandalized in so many bad ways that I won't even go into here, and that they would not respect their institute. That the president of the Senate, Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence, was the chant, and they just dismissed that. Why? Because maybe they can't get another job. What is so important about any one of us? What is so important about the political survival of any one of us that is more important than our Constitution that we take an oath to protect and defend? But why I came over was because I listened to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, who, when this distinguished group of House managers were gathered on January 15th to deliver the articles of impeachment, we're told it could not be received because Mitch McConnell had shut down the Senate and was going to keep it shut down until the inauguration. So for him to get up there and make this indictment against the president and then say, but I can't vote for it because it's after the fact that he established that it could not be delivered before the inauguration. Now, when you think about January 6th, between January 6th and January 20th, you're only talking about just under 2 weeks, a day under 2 weeks. So, the big lie of stop the steal, the big lie that you talked about, stop the steal, was the momentum for getting these people there on the 6th. They honestly believe, for whatever reason, maybe too much social media, whatever. Watch Social Media, that movie. So why they were thinking that was true, that the election was not legitimate, whatever the reason the president told. So, okay, so that's the 6th. A week later, we impeach in the House. Thank you to those of you who participated right away. Jamie Raskin, Ted Lieu, and David Cicilline. David Cicilline, they had it all written up and ready to go. Bipartisanly passed the House, and then 2 days later, ready with the case to take to the Senate. Oh, we can't receive it. Not a question, and then by the law, supposed to receive it and the next day start the trial. So for Mitch McConnell, who created the situation where it could not have been heard before the 20th, or even begun before the 20th in the Senate, to say all the things he said, oh my gosh, about Donald Trump and how horrible he was and is, and then say, but the time that the House chose to bring it over. No, we didn't choose. You chose not to receive it. So I think that's really important. And again, it doesn't matter, as Jamie and others have told us. You can have the case after the person is out of office, so it's an elementary discussion. the Senate ruled in that way and honoring a precedent on this. So it didn't matter, except it was not the reason that he voted the way he did. It was the excuse that he used.
Well, like I said on my previous video, don't just tell me. Show me instead. Thank you guys for watching. See you next video.